Good evening. This is a meeting of the North Andover Board of Health, Thursday, July 28th, 2022. It is 7:15. I'm Joe McCarthy, Board Chairman, and other board members in attendance are Dr. Patrick Scanlon, to my right. He's a town physician. And Jennifer Abo-Eze. She's a nurse, and she'll be speaking in just a moment. Department members present, Brian LaGrasse, he's the director. Steve Casey, he's the inspector. Carolyn Lamb, she's a public health nurse. And Tony Wolfenden, I don't know if you can see her, she is the health department assistant. So we do have a quorum of board members. The meeting is called to order, and the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of meeting minutes, May 26, 2022. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting minutes approved. New business. A new board member, Jennifer, as I said a few moments ago. I had worked with her several years ago in the Council on Aging, and in any board, there are people that deliver, and there are people that don't do much at all. Fortunately, she is a person that did deliver, and I am delighted that you're a member of our board. And that, if you can spend just a moment introducing yourself.
My name is Jen, and I've been a nurse for 31 years. Most of them has been at the bedside, but I've recently started working as a school nurse about 3 years ago. And I am very happy to be here.
And we're delighted that you're with us.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Old business, grants, updates. Brian, Steve?
Do you want to do the first one?
I can touch on the community health assessment. So we've still been working on the community health assessment with Health Resources in Action. We had our first meeting with them via Zoom with Andover as well, late June, and then we had another one last week, and Brian met with Andover's health director and assistant director on Monday to continue basically planning and trying to build a foundation. Right now they're working on identifying relevant stakeholders in the project, and they're also establishing a steering committee to help guide them moving forward in the process. And I think we have our third meeting next week.
Yep.
Next week to just continue going over that with members of the Health Resources in Action. And that's about it for the community health assessment. So.
There's another grant pending right now, too.
It's in the process.
It's in the process.
It has been awarded.
Can you talk a little bit about
Yes.
that?
Yep. So as Steve was talking about, our community health assessment has begun. We're determining the steering committee and the advisory board at this point right now. So the very beginning phases started this past week. So it's been a long process. I think I've been trying to get this up and running for over 5 years at this point, but it's finally started. So we're underway. Steve did a great job taking care of things while I was out for a couple weeks. And
That he did.
Yep, he did. Absolutely. So we also have the Public Health Excellent Grant, which is a regional shared services grant awarded by the state to communities across the entire state. We have partnered up with 6 communities in total, so 5 others, and we are receiving $297,000 a year over the course of 3 years. So it's a pretty good sized grant. We're going to be hiring some regional staff to help augment areas of need in various communities.
Excuse me, this has already been approved?
It's been approved. Yep. So we applied for it, we got it. We are the host community. We are literally just starting the process now. So we submitted our proposal in the budget and our write-up. It was approved, it was awarded. We haven't had our first kickoff meeting yet, but that is coming up in the very near future. I think next week.
Probably next week.
A Zoom call with the state scheduled to to get this up and running. So it's Andover, North Andover, Reading, North Reading, Linfield, and Haverhill. Partnered up, we are going to be hiring 3 staff personnel to help each community with their individual needs. So some communities don't have a full-time public health nurse. They'll be getting staff to help them with their public health nursing. We'll be doing a regional training coordinator, program coordinator, and a regional inspector to help out offset backlog of inspections that's happened over the past couple of years. So all in all, it looks pretty good. I'm excited that we were awarded $300,000 a year for the next few years. I think that's a nice little chunk of change
That it is.
that we can kind of rely on for a little bit to help get us back to square one after the whole pandemic, which is still going on. And we'll give you an update on that in a little bit. But that's where we are for grants. We get 2 great grants that it's just now both getting underway.
Very good. A public hearing? Have that down here.
There are no public hearings.
I think initially we had planned on potentially doing the animal regs, but I think we made a couple more edits, and we were gonna talk about that more tonight.
Okay. Okay. Communication announcements and discussions, COVID-19. Steve?
Yeah.
Brian?
So, since we last met in May, there haven't been any massive changes as far as like the state protocol. They did change basically the state's actual reporting of data on their website to weekly. They used to do it 5 times a week, which I believe was every weekday. But they peeled that back a little bit. They're doing it once a week. They haven't made any changes to isolation or quarantine protocol since the last meeting. That all still is the same, and we have flow charts for that on our website, which we honestly use regularly. Cases overall have gone down a lot. They've kind of hovered between like the 30 and 35 range each week. The positivity percentage fluctuated a little bit. It was a little higher last week, but I think that's in part because testing has dropped off a ton. I think in May or March, it was like around 2,000 tests per 2 weeks, and I think last week it was under 1,000. So it's almost been cut in half. They did announce on Tuesday there's a new vaccine that got emergency use authorization by the FDA called Novavax. It's an adjuvanted protein subunit vaccine, and in one of the CDC's quotes from their news release, it basically says that the protein subunit vaccines package harmless proteins of the COVID virus alongside other ingredients, which are the adjuvant that helps boost the immune system to better respond to the virus in the future. Right now, that's only available for 18 and over. There's no under 18 vaccinations. It's a 2-dose series currently, and it doesn't have a booster authorized. They just told us about it on Tuesday, so I don't have too much information on it, but that's really the only new relevant update they've kind of given us.
So all the vaccines that have been approved, this new one here, but we have the Pfizer, we have the Moderna, we have the Johnson & Johnson.
Yep.
Which one is the best?
I think any vaccine is good. I don't know much data about the Novavax, so I can't talk specifically about that.
Is it the mRNA or?
No, this is a protein derivative of the of COVID, and I think it's attenuated. So it's essentially just either a protein wall of the virus, or it's the frozen virus itself that's injected to cause an immune response.
So
most of those, a lot of vaccines are produced that way.
So if you're over 18, there are 4 vaccines out
So
right now. Can you pick the one you want?
I think the Novavax, I don't know how readily available that is yet. I think they're really like rolling that one out slowly.
And I don't think Johnson & Johnson is as readily available anymore either. That's kind of fallen out of favor.
Mm.
So it's really.
So of the other 2, can you pick the one you want right now, or you just?
I mean, it's kind of
Get what they have.
half dozen the other. So if you haven't been vaccinated at all, then pick one, and I think whatever option you have to get it. We're now kind of in the booster category level of vaccines right now for everybody.
Now, our president, I believe, has been vaccinated 4 times so far.
Yes.
and he just came down with the, was it BA5, I believe it's the most prevalent type of virus out there right now, but correct me if I'm mistaken, because he has been fully vaccinated, his case was not that serious.
Yeah, you know, the Omicron variants really consistently have been more virulent, so more highly transmissible, but just less overall respiratory illness. So like honestly, it's been months and months since I've seen a COVID patient in the ICU.
Really?
So just easily more, so I should say, more transmissible, but more highly transmissible, less serious, life-threatening illness we're seeing. People are still getting sick, like they are feeling horrible for like a week at a time, but it's more of a severe flu-like illness than actually landing people in the hospital with respiratory
I know, like a year or two ago, certainly the politicians are talking about we will be at an endemic stage. Doesn't look like we're ever going to be there right now with all these new variants coming up. It looks like this virus is going to be around one way, shape, fashion, or another, indefinitely.
Well, that's what makes it an endemic. I mean, that's the same as the flu. I would anticipate that whether it's the World Health Organization or the CDC is going to classify this as endemic at some point in the remote future. I mean, these variants are common. It's a virus. It's going to do this forever. That's why we get flu vaccines every year, and the CDC tries to pick which flu vaccine is going to be which flu variants are going to be the ones to target this year. I would assume it's going to be something similar to what COVID vaccines are going to be in the future as well. But Omicron, Delta, all of this is not unexpected for a virus. We can just hope that it just continues to become
I know
less
several
serious.
meetings ago I asked if you see a combination of flu shot and antiviral.
Capitalism, I'm
viral
sure
shot,
they'll find. I'm sure they'll do that.
Good point.
And it's just easy enough to get one shot to. I mean, look at MMR. You put 3 into the measles, mumps, and rubella.
So
Tetanus
it's a
and
matter of time, but
diphtheria.
no idea when that will be.
No, I haven't seen anything at all.
Okay.
Actually, one question I have about vaccines, is there any plan for a vaccine clinic for 6 months to 6 years, or?
So you might be able to touch on this a little better. I think we have one planned for National Night Out, but I don't know how young it is.
Planned, but they're not able to do the 6 month just because of the hold and the watch period. But
Okay.
Greater Lawrence Family does offer it in their clinic, and they're readily available with them. But just because we're going to offer a vaccine clinic outside, and doing PDs are harder to do outside with the hold and the watch period, that it won't be offered at National Night Out. But we will be offering a vaccine clinic at National Night Out from 5 years to whatever. We're going to offer boosters, primary series, and everything then. But just because of the watch period and having, like kids, it's harder to hold them. You can't do it in a school cafeteria. It has to be done the right way. So there are places that will do them. If you go on VaxFinder and you put in the 6-month-old, they'll actually have a list of all the places that are offering it right now.
Are they saying Pfizer versus Moderna?
It will actually tell you exactly what vaccine they're offering at that clinic. So I know that the CVS over, I believe, on Turnpike only offers Pfizer, while I believe Greater Lawrence offers both. But if you go on that vaxfinder.com, it tells you exactly what vaccine is available at what location. It tells you for the age group, and you can set the appointments right on there.
Yeah, I think pretty much for the reasons she kind of hinted at with more of a process, I think, for the real younger kids. So we haven't really scheduled one just yet. And we honestly, I don't know if you have, but I haven't even gotten a call for that young of an age group like for us to do it yet. So the demand doesn't seem to be super high. I'm sure people are out there, but
What's the vaccination rate here?
I think
Andover?
6% or 6 or 8% have the first dose.
Yep.
1% is fully vaccinated with both doses.
What age you talking about now?
6 months to 5 years old.
Yep. So, like, if you're looking for overall, our total partially vaccination is 86%, and our total fully is 77%.
So we're up there.
Those are good numbers.
And we send these out every week. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
spreadsheet
Yeah.
that attaches to all of the charts and all that. Just we've been tracking it for so long, we're just still doing it.
Yeah. I have the charts too. I just don't want
Okay.
to waste a ton of paper. If you guys can see. It's like 8 charts, and that's it.
I know. Yeah, we've been steadily going up. I mean, obviously it plateaued at the upper percentages, but we're at 86 partially vaccinated for our entire population, 77 fully vaccinated, and that includes the 0 to 4, which is obviously a slower process. Not as many people are looking to get kids that young vaccinated at this point, but over time that will go up. Yes, we have the National Night Out Clinic scheduled.
Yes.
Were we talking with them about doing school-based clinics at all?
So,
in the-
we're going to do the National Night Out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, for those who just turned 5, we can start primary series, and then we're going to open up another clinic, hopefully, right before school and get those kids all caught up. If not, we're going to plan to do a booster before school starts at hopefully one of the schools with Greater Lawrence as well. And just try to get all those kids, vaccinated in boosters before school starts and, fall hits again.
Any other updates you want to give on vaccines, vaccinations? Anything you can think of? You still getting requests for homebounds?
To be fair, my homebounds, or quote-unquote homebounds, a lot of them now are just kind of those people who are not quite homebound but have a little trouble getting out of their home. So those people I'm more than happy to go, there's not many, but there's a lot of families who are like, we have to wait for our kid to come from Connecticut to drive us. We can't get out of our home, it's a little more difficult. So I am still going
Okay.
to do as many as I can.
Yep.
But again, that's not a huge want, or
Right.
those who have wanted it have been able to get it.
Mhm.
Those who haven't been able to get it can always call me.
Yep. Thanks.
Just call the Department of Health here in North Andover, and, they'll flip
Any
you over to
resident
her.
can call you and.
Yes,
confirm.
so any resident can call me. We can either try to help them set up an appointment. Any residents can come into, set up an appointment and come right into the senior center and see me. But those who have a little difficulty getting out of the house will need to set an appointment, and we can figure it out from there.
Okay, cool.
That's about it for COVID.
Yeah.
As far
Well, I
as
have a question.
Yeah.
Have we had any cases of the
Monkeypox?
monkeypox?
no,
No,
they've been.
there are cases in Massachusetts, of course, but
Have you seen any cases at all? Because I read, in the United States, it's endemic in Central Africa, Central Eastern, Central Western, I'm not sure, Africa, but in the United States, the last number that I saw was like 2,900. And what I read is that it can be caught if you are bitten by an animal that is contagious, or if you eat meat of an animal that is contagious, or milk or dairy products from an animal. I'm sure there's much more than that. Do you have anything further you can comment on that?
I will say I'm not the monkeypox.
You're not the monkeypox.
They
Yeah.
so they
So you
have-
leave it to an engineer to explain it. Whoa,
Yeah.
okay.
all right. So
okay.
I think here in the U.S. it's more person-to-person contact
Yeah.
than any type of foodborne contact.
Yep.
Mm.
So we've had a couple of webinars on it.
Yeah.
It has
Oh.
been discussed.
Oh.
Luckily, it's not very transmissible. It's not airborne. It is through personal close contact. So,
And this is a virus. This is not a
correct.
bacteria.
Yep,
Blood and body fluid transmission.
correct.
Yeah.
So, and you're not contagious before you show symptoms. So it's not like a virus like COVID where you're contagious and don't know it yet. This, you have symptoms and you may even have the rash and lesions before you can actually spread. So hopefully that eases people's
Is there a vaccine?
anxiety a little bit.
Yeah, there is. But
yeah.
I think the vaccine is like super limited, and they're really only giving it to people who I think are like high risk
caring
and
for somebody.
are exposed. Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't think they've really gotten to the point yet where they're like pushing that or anything. It's more almost like they're using it after exposure, I believe, if I remember correctly
Yeah.
from the webinars.
Yeah, and and they do have antivirals that they will give somebody too as well. So I don't know if you know anything about monkeypox or been following it. If you have anything to add, feel free, 'cause I'm a novice with monkeypox.
No, the only thing that, I just read this today, that they're concerned about the fall when college comes back.
Okay, well, they're
Yeah.
close contact.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what they're most concerned about. But
Okay.
we'll see.
so
Fingers crossed.
I did get certified on smallpox vaccinations back in 2005.
There we go.
When that was an area of concern with the anthrax scares and bioweapons. That was the first little phase of our emergency preparedness coalitions that we work with and still work with today. And who I got one of the regional grants through is local bio-emergency response plans. And one of our things was smallpox and setting up emergency dispensing sites to inoculate for smallpox or giving out anthrax pills. Fun stuff. But that was back in the early 2000s. And now it's monkeypox. It just
And polio.
keeps, and polio, and it keeps
polio.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good stuff there. I will definitely keep you guys updated, as will Carolyn and Steve, on monkeypox and how that everything kind of unfolds moving forward. But yeah, so the fall, huh? And college kids.
Makes sense.
To keep that on the front
Before
burner
we
at
move
this
to
point.
the animal regulations, Calvin, do you have anything further you want to say? Because we touch base a couple times a month, and I said, hey, your input is really appreciated. So we've already gone over a few things. Anything else?
In addition to the vaccine clinic we're holding at National Night Out, we are going to do tick and mosquito education. I have a bike kit that's from the state. It kind of travels like the traveling pants. It goes from city to city. It has, here, I'll show you. It has little ticks that we can look at. These are real ticks, but they're dead. So we're all dead.
They're preserved.
Along with a mosquito kit. We do have a little bit of Lyme going around, but that's, you can get Lyme anywhere. You can get Lyme in your backyard, you can get Lyme hiking. What's important is to check for ticks after you're outside. Just because they're so tiny that it can look like freckles, to always check yourself for any new freckles, because that's weird. To, just magically have freckles, to check your pets. Cover up,
Yeah.
wear light clothes, you can see them, tuck your pants into your socks. So we are going to do a little bit on mosquito and tick education. Mosquitoes are everywhere. Not all mosquitoes carry disease, but to avoid disease is to avoid getting stung by a mosquito. So we're going to do that. Bug spray is important. So we're going to do a little on that on top of hopefully we can move away from COVID and do other things.
Talk
Other
about
public
mosquitoes.
health.
Talk about mosquitoes and ticks.
Maybe a few beaver dams in the middle there. that'd be great.
Yep, so, we didn't get to have mosquito control come tonight, but however, they have reached out. We do our annual barrier spraying prior to school starting up. They do use, and they started this last year, a different type of barrier spray that lasts 90 days and repels mosquitoes away from areas for 3 months. They're looking to do it not town-wide, but parks, fields, playgrounds, things like that, in the next couple weeks. They have an opening next week. I may try to line them up for that to do our barrier spraying of the schools, playgrounds, fields. The fall sports are starting up in the next 2 weeks, getting ready for their season to start beginning of September. All the school sports start up, all the outdoor activities start up, so I'm going to give you guys a heads up on that. We will do some sort of press release or PSA before that happens. And mosquito control will post the fields before they spray.
Is that also tick spraying or just mosquitoes?
Just mosquitoes. Ticks are a completely different animal. No pun intended.
Can you still opt out?
Yes, there is an opt-out. People have to sign up for it on the.
Is it
mosquito
too late to
website.
sign up for it right now?
I think it's ongoing.
Oh, it's ongoing. I thought there was a definitive
There
date
used to
in the
be.
past.
There used to be. I think it's ongoing now because they can update it quickly.
So where would one find out where, what area is gonna be sprayed? Is that available on our,
We would
department
make
website?
that public before it's
Yeah.
done.
Okay.
It'll be
So there'll
fine.
be a list.
So
Of
if they
fields.
opt out, will they be contacted, or they have to look at our website for that?
Well, they're not doing the entire town. We're just doing public.
Yeah, but we don't
parks.
know right now.
Okay, so
Later in the year, there may be more extensive spraying. We just don't know. The weather's been dry, so.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
no, okay,
good.
think that, we're only doing town property, so.
Right.
The town's not opting out.
That I know.
A resident, if they wanna opt out, they can go onto the Northeast Mosquito Control website, and there's a whole link that they can opt out themselves.
Okay,
And that's their own personal property.
okay.
So if we did a
Street-based.
located, street-based spraying, their address would be eliminated from the spray route.
We'll
Okay.
probably put the opt-out link in the PSA when we
Yeah,
push
we-
out
we
the
can do that.
information, yeah. so-
But this one's just
But, yeah,
town-owned property and field, so, we wanna obviously have this protection through Triple E season, which it has been dry this year, which is great, our numbers in terms of overall mosquitoes are down. We haven't had any West Nile virus hits yet, which is fantastic. Usually this time of year, we've had 1 or 2 positive pools, and it causes headaches,
Or you
but
got any pools to be,
How about Triple E? Any,
nothing.
nothing in Massachusetts?
I haven't seen nothing. I think there was a West Nile advisory.
Isn't it?
I think there's one
Central
for
Mass.
Triple E,
East
isn't
and-
it more
yeah,
towards
Yeah.
the
something like that.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was one West Nile hit in, possibly Easton.
I think it was Easton.
Somewhere in central Mass, but nothing close to us, so that's good. So the numbers have been great this year. Yeah, so I'll get that spraying information out early next week. Any other mosquito questions?
animal regulations?
Animal regs, all right, so we finally gotten to a point where we can have a public hearing on this. I gave you guys a really final draft at the last meeting. Joe had some comments on it. I gave it to animal control, I gave it to conservation, I sent it to community development, see if there's any other comments. Animal control is all set with it. I incorporated some language for conservation. It seems like we've gotten to that next step. I know Joe had some comments on the public hearing aspect of new applications. So, starting the beginning, nothing changed for the authority purpose definitions. Those are all straightforward. This basically just defines everything that we talk about, everything we're permitting. Animals, what kind of animals, things like that. And then section 4 has table 1, which is directly out of the zoning bylaw, so there's no contradiction between departments, which always gives us a run for our money when departments contradict each other, so we're not doing that. We're gonna stick with their language, exactly how they word it for zoning and for their chicken requirements. Then section 5 is what we're gonna require for their permits. Pretty straightforward, pretty basic. Their application requirements is everything that they're gonna need to put in their application. This is all the stuff we're gonna ask for, and this is one of the sections that we revised because we were leaning towards having public hearings for new applicants. We decided against that, and if you look down at section 6.1.5, I changed this and revised this in the next one, where it says new applications may be required by the health department to submit a list of abutters, items are proposed, and then obviously that list of abutters would be used to notify abutters within 7 calendar days of a public hearing. So, or application submittal. So what would happen is, if someone was proposing a big animal operation, I wouldn't want to not let the abutters know. So give us discretion to say, you're proposing 35 cattle on your property? Okay. Well, you know what? We're gonna let your neighbors know, see if they have any input. So I just wanna keep
Better
it.
than 35 pigs,
Yeah,
I'll tell you
so instead of
that.
recording everybody to come before the board for a public hearing and get a butter input, there's no set criteria on what would trigger this except for department opinion. And if it's a small operation, nothing. If somebody's getting a couple of cattle or some goats and they have a big wide open property, no big deal. But if they're gonna propose anything more substantial, and I would talk with the board about if they should be required to come before the board. So I'd give Joe a call, and say, hey Joe, I get somebody proposing a stable and 4 horses. They got 12 acres? No, that's fine, don't worry about it. Or they're gonna do 35 pigs and have a pig farm. Well, you know what? Have them come before the board, because those are not quiet, or there's a lot of nuisances that come along with pig farms. So I just changed that on Joe's request, that you don't need to have everybody come before you and spend all the money on abutter notifications and your time and their time.
Yeah, this is consistent with what we have been doing for a number of years, which is, because our department is very competent, just turn over more mundane issues to the department, and we can focus on educating town residents and updating regulations and so on and so forth. So, correct me if I'm mistaken, but we're gonna have an open hearing next meeting on this. So anyone that has an interest in this draft regulation, that is the time to talk. Because at the end of that meeting, we will vote, barring the unexpected, to approve it on, to approve it, period. Anything else, Brian?
I think I might add in here that they may, if they're submitting the list of abutters, they may be required to have a public hearing before the board. I took that one out when you didn't want everybody, but I'll add it back in for they may be required if determined. I just did this quickly the other day, just to update it. And aside from that, the following will not be permitted. Roosters are a big no-no, and they are in most communities, just because they're very loud. So those are a no-no. And then section 7 is construction, and that's for if they're building a coop or a stable, they've got to meet all sorts of standards with the building department and setbacks and things like that. And then standards of care, section 8, is just we want like a manure and waste management plan, storage of feed plan. I mean, you don't want to have, out of control rodents and things like that associated with where the animals are staying and how they're being stored, how their food's being stored, things like that. And then 9 is enforcement and penalties. So if anybody violates these, they can get a fine. And then a right to hearing, appeal before the board. And then variance. Obviously, if anybody wants a variance, then they've got to come before you guys for a public hearing and notify their abutters for that. Because they can't meet one of the requirements of the regulation. I think at that point, they should let their abutters know, and the neighbors know, and appear before the board to get a variance from any section of these regulations.
With a few minor changes, we've seen this for a number of months now, and it's very
Yeah.
good. It's all inclusive, and again, we're gonna have our next meeting, an open hearing
Yeah.
on this.
September 22nd is the date.
Okay. Anything else?
For the animal regs, that is it. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. But yeah, so animal control did look at it, and he read it, and he said it looked great. So I'm very happy with that, because I figured he would have some input. The animal control officer is also our animal inspector, who inspects all of our barns. And he does what's called our barn book, that's required by the Mass Department of Agriculture. So
Kid story. The barn book.
the barn book. So, yeah, I just wait to hear back from upstairs, see if they have any questions or raising flags for them. I think we should be good.
Good. Anything else?
Anything else, Steve?
Shout out to Carolyn for doing a good job with the camps this year.
Ah, nice. That's right.
First camp season.
welcome to your first camp.
I think we should ban all camps. I'm just kidding. Camps are great. They were all very good.
Not as fun as being in them.
No, definitely not.
So, but that was, no, that's, I don't know.
It's a heavy lift that we do every year. This was our first year doing it. A lot goes into it. I didn't think you realized how much. Now you do.
I did not realize how much.
Very, very intensive.
Yeah, but once we get the camps that we know are going to be here, it's a long process to work with them, getting all of their paperwork, all of their plans, their healthcare consultant, their vaccination records.
How many camps are there in the town?
6.
Brooks, obviously.
Brooks is huge,
Brooks-
yeah.
Has 2 of their own and host 4.
Yeah.
No, host 3. And I think
So
there's
there are 5 out of the 6?
yeah.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Or
their
they're on-
locations
Yeah.
used by multiple.
Uh-huh.
So you have overnight lacrosse camps, you've got their day camp,
Soccer.
soccer camp,
Yep.
and then they used to have a rowing camp as well.
Oh, yeah.
That camp did not come back during COVID. It was too difficult to predict anything. And the amount of work that they have to do on their end to get permitted and use the facilities at Brooks, it was too much to do without knowing it's gonna run or not. All that resources and manpower you put in to have it shut down it's a hard gamble for some people. And then we have some hockey camps at Merrimack.
We have a hockey camp in Merrimack.
Yep.
Yep.
Stop at goaltending, right?
Dynamic.
Or was it, no,
Dynamic.
Yep.
Stop at goaltending was a couple of years ago. Dynamic Skate does their camp in Merrimack, so. And then Steve has to inspect all the facilities, make sure they're all set. And we charge like $100 for the camp fee?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1,000 hours for $100. All
This
right.
is nothing else. I just want to make a couple of brief points. Because we have plans after this meeting without going into detail. But a prime goal, as I said a few moments ago, of our town's Board of Health has been to educate and provide town residents with the relevant health-related information. In the last 2.5 years or so, it's primarily been the coronavirus. And now we're opening up, for example, the animal regulations, and there'll be others coming too. A future topic that I would like to see is suicide, because it has affected a number of us. It's affected my family big time, without going into detail. And there's no general way to broach the subject. It doesn't exist. The World Health Organization says about 700,000 people kill themselves every year. In the United States, it's in excess of 45,000. And looking just 20 years ago, since then, the number has gone up 30%. It's been catastrophic. And furthermore, of those that have taken their lives, so I've read, and I read it in, there's a very good article, by the way, in this magazine, Discovery, on suicide, and it's dated July and August of this year. But of the people that have killed themselves, 54% have no prior mental illness or problem. Some of the numbers here are absolutely staggering. So I do want to talk about it sometime in the not-too-distant future, or perhaps have someone come in. Again, it's an excellent article, but last but not least, the Suicide and Crisis Hotline, and I believe it's relatively new, is 988. Again, the Suicide and Crisis Hotline is 988. So when in doubt, if you're confused, if the need is there, call that number. Again, we'll make this a topic of discussion going forward. On a lighter matter, a few moments ago, Brian said that entomologists, that is a bug person, from the Northeast Mosquito Control and Wetlands Management District, probably Kim Floss, I imagine. She's very good, and she'll be here to speak with us further about mosquito control and Triple E and West Nile disease. Earlier this week, when I was in the department, I do low productivity, but we do get a lot of things done too when I'm there. I was looking at some of the recent literature they get, and this is preventing disease spread by ticks. Callan already talked a little bit about it, but each year, approximately 476,000 Americans are diagnosed and treated for Lyme disease. And that's probably a small number compared to the people that actually have it. So arguably, it can be millions of people. And as mosquito-borne diseases, such as the Triple E and West Nile virus, the Lyme disease is really fatal, but the symptoms can be brutal. They can be awful. It's caused by a bacteria. Symptoms can begin anywhere from 3 days to 1 month after a person is bitten by an infected black leg tick. They say deer ticks, but also carried by mice too, and perhaps other rodents. The symptoms may include a rash around the bite. What is it, like a red
Target?
target?
Rash. Looks like,
Yeah.
really looks like a target.
Yeah. And,
in the center.
and if untreated, the bacteria can spread to other parts of the body and can cause arthritis, shooting pains, numbness or tingling of the hands and feet, problems with short-term memory. Ooh, I hope I don't have it. And heart problems. And to further elaborate on what you were saying and how to prevent it, use repellent that contains DEET. There are literally hundreds of different DEET repellents, and you can apply them directly to your skin. Where, in the summertime, if you're out, wear light clothes, be fully covered. As you said, put your socks, put your socks around the legs, long sleeve shirts, brushing against grass. I believe the ticks are kind of waiting on these, the grass. If they see someone comes by, they say, "Oh, food time, food time, so time for a meal," okay? And by the way, look, this information is from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. I thought it's very good, and it said, well, what can you do to reduce the number of ticks around the home? Keep grass cut short, remove leaves and brush from around your home, prune low-lying bushes, and let in more sunlight, et cetera, et cetera. One I didn't know, it says, use a 3-foot wide wood chip, mulch, or gravel barrier where your lawn meets the woods, because the ticks are less likely to cross the barrier onto your lawn. So again, as mosquito-borne illnesses, fatalities are not that great, but the symptoms can be horrific. And it can kill you. So that's all that I have to say. Anyone
I will
else?
say, if you're capable of having your lawn sprayed for mosquitoes and ticks, it's definitely worthwhile. I mean, it is expensive, but you can do that too.
I often, I was going to say run, I struggle running, so I walk around the old downtown section of North Andover, and often there are a lot of people there. And I see kids on grass with short pants on. I feel like going and say, no, don't, but it's none of my business. I think people are just cavalier about some of these illnesses and ailments, really.
I think those kind of fields with short grass are not as bad as, you know, if you're going hiking and you're going through the taller grass, that's really where you have to worry about ticks.
Right.
The fields like that, it's highly unlikely for risk of getting a tick like that. It's more just going through higher fields, higher grass and things like that.
Like the common surrounded by streets, the ticks won't cross a paved street. They talk about the barrier around the edge of your lawn that separates the shaded moist woods area from your grass. They will travel from the woods through the soft brush onto your grass because there's no border. But if you do a gravel border or a bark mulch border that's a couple feet wide, it's too sunny for them and they stay away from it. Because if they get caught out in the sun, they desiccate and they die. So on the common, it's surrounded by streets. Very, very little chance of a tick getting onto the common unless it's on another animal and falls off.
That's why you
But
don't
then-
have a joke why the tick crossed the road.
But then if it does fall off, then it has to find a host or shade or
Get
it will
another
die in the
host.
grass.
There you go.
It was attached to the chicken.
No, they're around
yeah.
all seasons.
Of course. If it's above 42 degrees, ticks will be active. So even in the winter.
Wow,
if-
42 degrees.
Yep. If it's above 42 degrees, ticks can be active. Your chance of getting one, if it's 43 degrees out, is very low, but they can be active and they are in the underbrush. So,
That's when they're usually hiding underneath the leaves, so when you're doing the leaf cleanup in the
Yep.
fall, they're hiding underneath there.
yes. So, the barrier is a great way to keep them from coming onto your property if you have the ability to do that. And that's a lot of landscaping, but if you have the will and desire to do it, by all means.
That, having it sprayed is probably cheaper than doing it. That's for sure. Honestly, I have
Good point.
my yard sprayed for mosquitoes and ticks and we haven't had any tick problems and same thing with mosquitoes. But it's expensive.
And as I said,
Yep.
at least 476,000 people a year are treated for Lyme disease. And yet slightly more people die of tobacco every year. I think it's like 480,000 people die of tobacco.
That's going down at this point.
It's going down? Well, I read that.
I don't know, I haven't
I
seen
read
the
that
numbers.
yesterday, so.
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
haven't seen the
whoa,
actual
whoa,
numbers.
Whoa.
But with smoking getting more expensive and obviously vaping has kind of offset the combustible tobacco, I think there still has major issues with vaping, but is it reducing tobacco consumption? I'm sure it is. I know a lot of people that have tried to quit smoking have gone to vaping. So they're just offsetting one set of
And one set of problems for another.
for
yes.
another. I don't know what the death rate is for vaping. I don't think it's been around long enough
Yeah.
to figure out, but
Well, the FDA is looking within a couple of years of eliminating nicotine as it exists now from cigarettes. Good luck doing that. It'll be like prohibition.
I know.
That didn't work at all, you know, and that means that cigarettes will be coming in from Canada, they'll be coming in from Mexico, and it could be a real mess, but we'll see. Good ideas, but
they can try. I don't think they'll succeed. Tobacco companies and lobbyists are too strong and
Oh, yeah.
too much money, but
yeah.
we'll see what happens. I guess controlling vaping is their next big fight. I know they eliminated the ban Juul.
Yes.
We talked about, we did a ton on vaping prior to the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit and everything went to the wayside.
That was the original public health emergency,
Yes.
was vaping.
Yep,
Yeah.
totally. So, but the FDA did ban Juul.
And comment on the stores that we have here in town?
There's only one 21 plus and they're not open right now.
Yeah. And I think we're at our cap for tobacco permits.
I think so, yeah. We have
We're at our cap for tobacco, right?
I think we're at 16.
We're at 14, we're getting 2 more, they're not,
Up and running,
We're
yeah.
not up and running yet, but we'll
Yeah.
be at our cap that we
They're-
set. When we redid the regulations, we put a limit on the number of permits we can issue. 2 are coming in for new establishments that will then cap us out.
that'll count us out.
And if one of the present establishments sells cigarettes to a minor, the fine is $1,000 now, is it?
And that's through the state, that's not through, our local regs are capped at 300. The state's 1,000 for the first
I thought we
offense.
have to adhere to the state on
It's a
that.
state statute that gives us, that would give tobacco control the authority to issue a $1,000 fine.
Okay.
Our cap
Okay.
by state statute was 300,
Yeah.
which is still a lot, but the state changed it in their cap under the state regs is now 1,000. So we have our local regs and we enforce the state regs. The state's now up their ante. And I think it goes to 5,000?
I'm not sure, it's very high.
Yeah.
5,000.
Yeah.
I would recommend just not doing it once, never mind twice.
Good point. But the whole thing with retailers selling to minors is, it's not the owner of the store, it's the new help that comes in that isn't trained yet, doesn't know all the rules, or is in a rush. It's the turnover, it's the training, they don't mean to do it, but they get caught doing it. And that happens from time to time. I think our sales rate is very low. I'm gonna say maybe one sale a year that we catch them on.
Yeah, it's super low.
Yeah.
Well, the numbers that I were looking at recently said that about 38 million Americans smoke. And I think it's like 12.5% of the adult population or something like that. So the numbers continue to go down, but it's a $95 billion a year business.
Yikes.
And if the FDA reduces or eliminates nicotine, and in the article that I wrote says tobacco companies are going to, it's going to go right to the Supreme Court. We'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Well, Jen, wanna make a motion to adjourn? Your first meeting?
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.